For over 3,000 years, his name did not exist. It had been chiseled off every wall, scraped from every monument, struck from every list of kings. The most powerful civilization in the ancient world spent generations making sure you would never hear of him. They almost succeeded. Hey, I'm Raven from Gravetide Studios. Ancient Egypt has always pulled at me. Not the treasure, not the tombs, but the idea that a civilization so obsessed with immortality could decide that one man deserved to be forgotten forever. Akhenaten is that man. And the fact that we know his name at all is its own kind of miracle. Let's get into it. Egypt, 1353 BCE, the most powerful empire on Earth, a civilization that had endured for over 1,000 years. Its gods intact, its priests powerful, its order absolute. Then a king came to the throne and changed everything. His name was Amenhotep IV. Within 5 years, he had renamed himself, abandoned the capital, dismantled the entire religious establishment, and declared that there was only one God. Not the greatest God, the only God. His name for that God was the Aten, the disk of the sun. Not Ra, not Amun, not any of the hundreds of deities that had governed Egyptian life for millennia. Just the light itself, abstract, unreachable, with one intermediary between the Aten and humanity, himself. He was born into a dynasty at its height. His father, Amenhotep III, had presided over an Egypt of extraordinary wealth and stability. The temples were rich. The priests of Amun, the chief god of the empire, had accumulated power and land that rivaled the pharaoh himself. There is debate among historians about whether Akhenaten was a genuine religious visionary or a political operator who saw monotheism as a way to break the priests of Amun and consolidate total power in the crown. The answer is probably both. The two things were not mutually exclusive. A king who believed what he was doing could also understand exactly what it would achieve. What is certain is this: he moved the capital. He chose a site in the middle of Egypt, a stretch of desert on the east bank of the Nile that belonged to no god and no temple. He called it Akhenaten, the horizon of the Aten. He built an entire city from nothing in less than a decade. Temples open to the sky rather than enclosed in darkness. Palaces of painted plaster, a road wide enough for the royal procession to move through it like a river. He moved the court, the administration, the artists. Tens of thousands of people are relocated to a city that had not existed 5 years before. And he closed the temples. Not just the temples of Amun, all of them. He sent workers across Egypt to chisel the name of Amun from every wall, every pillar, every monument they could reach. The word Amun, even where it appeared inside other words, inside other names, was removed. His own father's name contained Amun. He changed that too. The art changed with him. Egyptian art had followed the same conventions for 1,000 years. Figures shown in profile, idealized, timeless. the human body a symbol rather than reality. Under Akhenaten, something completely different emerged. The royal family was shown in ways no pharaoh had ever been depicted. Akhenaten himself, elongated skull, wide hips, soft belly, a body that looked almost androgynous, was rendered with a physical specificity that had no precedent. He and Nefertiti were shown playing with their daughters, kissing, grieving. The Aten's rays ended in small human hands reaching down to touch them. Whether this reflects Akhenaten's actual appearance, a deliberate artistic theology, or something else entirely, historians still argue. What is certain is that it looked like nothing that had come before and nothing that would come after. Nefertiti stands beside him in these images, not as a decorative figure, but as an equal. In some depictions, she is shown smiting enemies, a pose reserved exclusively for pharaohs. There is evidence that late in Akhenaten's reign, or immediately after his death, she may have ruled as pharaoh herself under the name Nefertiti. The record is fragmentary. The erasure came for her too. They had a son. His birth name was Tutankhaten, living image of the Aten. He was a child when his father died, around 1336 BCE, after 17 years on the throne. The city of Akhenaten was already faltering. The priests of Ammon had not been destroyed, only suppressed. The military had been neglected during years of religious upheaval. The empire's vassal states were sending letters asking for help that never came. The child king was guided by advisors who understood what needed to happen. He changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Ammon. He abandoned Akhenaten. He restored the temples. He moved the court back to Thebes. He was dead before he was 20. What followed was systematic and deliberate. Horemheb, the general who eventually took the throne after a succession of short reigns, oversaw the most comprehensive act of historical erasure in the ancient world. Akhenaten's name was removed from the official king lists, the records that documented every pharaoh in Egyptian history. He was referred to only as the criminal of Akhenaten, if he was referred to at all. The city of Akhenaten was dismantled. The stones were taken and used as fill inside the walls of temples being built elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of carved and painted blocks packed into foundations where no one would ever see them. The images were defaced, the name chiseled away, the memory suppressed so thoroughly that 3,000 years later, when European archaeologists first began excavating the site, no one knew whose city it was. They called it Amarna. They found the blocks, the talatat, small standardized stones that could be carried by one person, still bearing their painted surfaces inside the walls of later temples. Tens of thousands of them, a civilization's attempt at erasure, preserved by accident inside the very monuments built to replace what had been destroyed. We know Akhenaten existed because the erasure was imperfect. In 1887, a woman digging for fertilizer in the fields near the ancient site found a cache of clay tablets. They turned out to be the diplomatic correspondence of the Amarna court, letters from foreign kings, vassal rulers, allies, sending desperate pleas for military help that went unanswered. The Amarna Letters, nearly 400 of them, a window into a court in the middle of a revolution it could not sustain. In 1907, A tomb was found in the Valley of the Kings containing a mummy that didn't fit. Wrong coffin, wrong inscriptions, repurposed, adapted, stripped of its original identity. DNA analysis conducted in 2010 confirmed the mummy was the father of Tutankhamun. Akhenaten, recovered from his own erasure by the technology of a world that didn't exist when his enemies tried to make him disappear. The question that has never fully been answered is why. Why did he do it? A king who had everything: power, wealth, stability, a dynasty that had run without interruption for generations, chose to tear all of it apart for a theology that left him almost entirely alone at the top of a religion with exactly one worshiper. Some historians see a man of genuine spiritual conviction. Others see a narcissist who remade the cosmos in his own image. Others see a political strategist who overplayed his hand. What the record shows is a man who looked at the most stable civilization in the world and decided it was wrong. Who built a city to prove it. Who changed the art, the language, the architecture, the religion. Who left behind images of himself holding his daughters up to the light. And who was then removed from history so completely that the civilization that erased him nearly succeeded in making it permanent. He wanted to be the only intermediary between humanity and divine. In the end, he became something else entirely. The hole in the record, the absence in the king list, the mummy in the wrong coffin. The Pharaoh history tried to kill twice. Once with a chisel, once with silence. Neither worked. Akhenaten returned from Erasure. Gravetide Studios.